Welcome to TEPSA Talk, the podcast where leaders inspire, share, and grow together. TEPSA is dedicated to celebrating the incredible work happening in education. Each episode, we dive into meaningful conversations with leaders, change-makers, and innovators who are shaping the future of our schools. Whether you're looking for fresh ideas, encouragement, or a little spark to fuel your passion, TEPSA Talk is here for you. Imagine tuning in to hear how leaders are revolutionizing their schools, tackling challenges head-on, and fostering a culture of collaboration. Grab a coffee, hit play, and let's grow together. Welcome to TEPSA Talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TEPSA Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. I'm thrilled to bring you different guests each week from around the world to share their experience. And this one today is one that if you are active on social media, I am sure you have seen his high energy videos, his lots of ideas he shares online, and that is the one and only Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. Can I tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, appreciate being on the show, bro. And I always say, man, it's always good to talk education, man. So here's the Cliff Notes version. All right. So 15 years teacher, high school, middle school teacher, keynote speaker, two-time author. I've done work with the UFC, professional athletes, clothing brands, started a nonprofit that went national and was featured on NBC, the Saturday morning show, USA Channel 9. And I just get really hyped about talking all things from leadership to engagement to relationships to teaching in the classroom, all the things. So I'm just so pumped up to be here, man. Let's get into it.
Awesome. So today we wanted to talk about engagement because I know that's one of your specialties, one of the things you're really passionate about. And so before we start kind of diving into that, I'd love to start with you. Now, at some point, obviously, you noticed that you had a gift or an eye for really engaging your students. When did you see or feel that you were doing something that not everybody was doing?
I think it was pretty early on, man, but I'm going to be really humble in this response because I'm going to say this, like, even back then when I thought I had the thing, I looking back now, I'm just like, man, I wish I knew what I know now, but I just look at everything like, would I enjoy this? Would I have fun in my classroom? And then ultimately I think this is where it really, Todd, when it really kind of jumped was when I became a dad. I'm a girl dad of two little girls. And once I started looking through this lens of teach like it's your kid in the front row. And one time I had somebody say, like, what if they're in the back row? I don't care what row. Football, they could be on the football field. They could be a kid I don't even teach. Like, every kid is my kid. And then when I started looking at things through that lens, I think I started to realize, like, hey, man, I need to step it up a notch. Like, look at what I did last year and think, like, how can I shift it for this year? What can I change to make it cool? How can I turn a sit down into a stand up thing? And through both of those lenses of would I enjoy this plus would my kids enjoy this, I think it just made me a much better teacher. And man, that happened some years ago. And then it just kind of snowballed and continues. I definitely thought of school differently than most, and so that's always kind of been my thought process is how can I make school awesome for kids today? And so we just keep that going.
I love you sharing, though, that you really thought about what you love, too. Because I think that's a piece that sometimes people inadvertently forget is we need to have fun, too, obviously, with our kids. And some of that comes from, let me bring in my own passions in and see if it connects with kids and things like that. And so, primarily our audience is school administrators, elementary, middle, obviously anybody could be listening to this podcast. But as a school administrator, if I want to start encouraging my staff to engage their students better, part of it is me engaging my staff better. And so if I don't even know where to begin, because that wasn't a forte of mine, what advice would you have for somebody who doesn't even know where to begin?
Dude, all right. So that's a loaded question, and I got so much I could throw at you, man. So I'm going to roll with it, and you just, like I said, bro, cut me off. So I'm fired up. So here's the thing. So much in education we talk about, like, all right, retaining teachers. Again, Todd, there's so much to this, right? So how do we retain teachers? What's the toughest thing in education as it relates to teaching? I mean, there's so many things I could probably put at the top, but one of them is engagement, lesson planning. How do we do this? And as a school leader, you're almost like the broader version of a teacher. Like, as teachers are like, how do I make my class engaging? School leaders are like, well, how do I get my teachers to do engaging activities? How do I even help them, right? So my thought process is quite simply this, and it's so simple. As a teacher, I'm going to take it from the teacher perspective first, and then I'm going to adjust it to the leadership, right? As a teacher, one year, when I wrote my new book, School of Engagement, it's literally about this process, okay? I was sitting at my desk in my middle school classroom, and I knew what I had to teach the following week. And I'm very meticulous about my plans, right? I'm very planned out, well in advance. And I was like, man, I don't even want to teach it. Like, I'm bored thinking about what I'm going to do next week. And that takes away the joy of teaching as well, right? And so I thought, man, wouldn't it be sweet if I could open up my desk drawer and like pull out a book with like ideas from other people and like it told me how to do it. And then I just take my history content or my math content or my science stuff, and then I use it to fit the needs of my kids. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to scale it up for my great readers or my high school kids. I'm going to scale it down for my struggling math students or whatever. And I was like, man, that should be a thing. And as a school leader, if you take the approach of how you can do this from the collective standpoint, and that's quite the simplest way to do this is this. As you walk around and you're doing your observations, and school leaders, if you're not going into classrooms every single day, you got to change that. Every single day hit classrooms. And what I don't mean is don't go in every day with your laptop and be like, I got to write stuff up. Just go in. Now, what I would do is I'd go in with my phone on the ready. and what I'm going to do is when I see something cool going on in a classroom, when I see a great lesson happening, I'm going to take some pictures. I might even take a video. And then I'm going to come back to that teacher, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this basically shared document of ideas for my staff. I don't have to make it. I just have to, when I see it, grab it and put it in the shared drive. And I'm going to go back to that teacher and say, hey, that was a great reading thing. Like, you just made reading fun for kids. Like, how did you do that? They give you the name of it. It was called this. How did you do it? 5-step process. I got some pictures. I threw it in the shared drive. Now you're going to another classroom, maybe the next week, and you see a cool math strategy, or you see a cool thing that they did in science for a review. It's not a science thing. It's a vocab thing or a review thing or a whatever thing. I like how you took that worksheet and turned it into a stand-up experience for kids. Can you walk me through that? And in a very short period of time, Todd, you're going to have 5, 10, 15 over the course of the year, because it's not about writing up a 15-page lesson plan. Right. Quite frankly, leaders who are listening, as a teacher, I don't have time to read 15 pages of lesson plans. I want like a quick how-to. And then if you work with your instructional coaches, they're rolling through this and they're the ones finding it. You don't even have to worry about it. Designate it to them. Let them do the hard work. But then the cool thing is you can tell your instructional coach, listen, teachers, ChatGPT is awesome, or all the other AI strategies. Let's stop worrying about how kids can cheat with them and let's start using them to cheat for ourselves. You take this 5-step process, throw it into ChatGPT and say, modify this for 6th grade math, or modify this for 3rd grade reading, or can you give me how could I use this in my high school math class teaching whatever? And ChatGPT will spit out that modification for you. Now you have almost unlimited use of these different things, and you're not overwhelming your staff. And here's the biggest thing, Todd. As a leader, you're giving your staff a tangible tool that they can use. Because here's a big problem. Teachers hate when you're just like, we're going to start a new program, or here's a new thing for you to do. Because as a teacher of 15 years, that program's going to be outdated tomorrow. And we're probably not going to use it next year. So naturally, what are you going to get? You're going to get the eye roll and you're going to lose buy-in. You want more buy-in. And now as you're giving your staff, they're not doing anything. You're providing it for them and say, listen, you don't have to use this, but I'll tell you what, I would love to see people doing this. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to throw one more thing in there. That's a huge thing that most people never do. How are you using social media to then grab ideas and put them into this shared thing? If you follow me on Instagram, I'm at Mr. Alsheimer. And I literally post video after video of ideas for teachers. That's literally, I just care about teachers so much. I want to bring the joy back. And if you're a principal and you're not stealing ideas from my page, do it. And as a matter of fact, do it, put it into your shared drive and share it with your staff. That's literally like it's professional development from down the hall. Yeah. And this is a huge asset for anybody in leadership. Stealing from our own school, stealing from social media. Here you go. And now teachers are going to be like, oh, thank you. And now you have a buy-in with your staff that you never would have had.
Well, I love that idea so much because I think so often we go to PDs or we search on Google for great engagement ideas and they can feel overwhelming. They can feel like they don't really fit us or our kids. And then it's just like, okay, I spent all this time looking and didn't find anything. But I love what you shared about the reality is every one of our schools has educators doing fantastic things. And as somebody who's going in and doing the observations, we see it. But I think a piece we're missing is something you shared of, we don't often share it with the rest of the staff. And it's not an idea of look at all these 25 things this teacher did. It's let me pick one really easily replicable idea and put it in a shared drive that I can say, hey, every time I see something, the other admins, you on staff, like if it's a great engagement thing, let's put it in here. And then not only can we hear great engagement ideas, I have somebody to go to on campus to ask, okay, explain to me in a little more detail on how you did that. And I think that's the game changer because it also empowers your people to understand their value and to realize that they do incredible things. So I think that idea is so brilliant of you don't constantly have to outsource everything. You've got a lot right there, and that by collecting it, you're doing so many positive things that lead down there. I love that. So if you've got an administrator though who says, "Okay, Jonathan, this is great. Like I love sharing this, but like I want to engage my people more. Like I want to make my staff meetings better or my trainings or whatever I'm doing. But obviously I'm struggling because maybe I didn't see another administrator do stuff like that. Now, would you say take the teacher's ideas, use those, or what advice would you have for an admin who wants to spice up the way they do staff meetings or trainings?
Yeah. All right. So, man, you're hitting me with some stuff, man. I love it. Like this, comes another that's a loaded question. Here comes another monster answer. Okay. So I'm going to hit it from every avenue here. So number one, as a teacher, again, you want, just like teachers want to get student buy-in. I always think of when I work with leaders across the country, whether it's the principal, the superintendent, the instructional coaches, or the collective of those people, I say, think of your profession or what you're doing within the school division. Think of it like your classroom. How are you getting teacher buy-in? Because you can lose student buy-in, you can lose teacher buy-in. And as it relates to the work that you're doing in a staff meeting or what you're doing with your staff, the moment teachers feel like you're wasting their time, you have lost them. Oh my gosh, big time. So first of all, step one, every single staff meeting you ever have better have a really big purpose and also treat it like a classroom. It's really difficult as a teacher to hear an observation where I'm being observed and you are giving me feedback on everything needs to be intentional. How are you teaching the standard? How are you assessing it? So on and so forth. But then when I go to an administrator's classroom, which is essentially every time we get together as a staff, it's like we're winging it and we're throwing stuff at the wall. Like it has to be structured in the same process. Now, with that being said, to answer your question and to kind of get into that question a little bit, number one, yes, I think that as a staff, if you were to say, for example, there was a video that I posted on my Instagram, feel free to go on, people listening, and snatch it up. It's called Head, Shoulders, Knees, Color. The best teachers steal ideas. If you don't have to be the best at coming up with an idea, you just have to be a great thief. And so I stole this idea from an elementary school teacher in California at a PD that I did. She shared the strategy with me. And as she shared it, she did a little bit differently than I did. And I was like, I could gamify this. I could do this differently. Like, do that. But then as a leader, like take those cool ideas that you see either from like stuff that I've done or something you might see on another person's thing or maybe from a classroom, and then take that into the staff meeting. Like, listen, for 5 minutes, I want to prove to you something. Now, you don't just go in and play a game to play a game, just like a teacher doesn't go in to play a game to play a game. What are you trying to accomplish here? So as a leader, what I'm going to do, maybe back to school or maybe on a random October staff meeting, listen, I'm going to show you something and then I'm going to tell you the purpose behind it. So we're going to play a game that seemingly looks meaningless, head, shoulders, knees, color. And as you do this, all right, just understand that I have a reason why we're doing this. I'm going to share it with you. We're going to play this for 5 minutes. We're going to have some fun, blast some music. You're doing whatever, right? And as they're doing it, and if you watch the video on my social media, you'll understand the game and you'll understand how hyped it can get. But with that being said, at the end, what I then say when I go and do a workshop is I then say to the staff, you know those feelings you're feeling right now, that energy that you're feeling right now? What if we can get that and transcend it into our writing? If you're a student, the same thing goes. This took 5 minutes. That energy that you're feeling when you leave, if you're a student, you're like, man, I really like Miss Thomas's class, man, Mr. Wilson's math class. There's something different. And it might have been from a 5-minute marker activity that now they're going in and doing their fractions or their equations or their whatever it is. And so now you have more buy-in from them. And you're explaining this to your staff, so now they're starting to understand it. We're teaching teachers essentially how to teach here. But then also, as I shared that strategy with the shared drive, the thing I just talked about, Todd, what if as a staff, you put your staff through something? Or like, hey, I saw this really cool thing. Listen, for example, Todd, I was doing observations in North Carolina. I walked around a bunch of schools and I saw amazing things happening. And then I went to another state, another state, another state. And over the course of going across the country, one of the things I noticed was I saw a lot of escape rooms, which are great, but kids are sitting down. So it was a glorified worksheet with a really fuzzy name. So as a staff, at a staff meeting, either you as the leader address this, or you talk about something and then you say, okay, how could we accomplish this goal? So either you show them, you talk about an escape room and say, all right, well, how can we get this? How can we get kids up and moving? What can we do with music? What can we do with hooks? How can we? And all of a sudden the staff are giving you the ideas. Or if you have the ideas, you're sharing that with them. Or you can show 1 or 2 or 3 ideas. Hey, I saw this week. Hey, I saw this. Question. I really want to know how can your group, maybe you have all your staff sitting in their little pods with their groups, like science over here, 10th grades over here, 3rd grades over here. How can you use this? Or I'm going to show you 3 examples. Pick one. How can you use that one example? Or pick one and how would you change it and what would you do? And what would you do to get kids up? What would you do to get kids creating? What would you do? How are you going to do it? But what are you doing? And now all of a sudden, number one, the staff feel valued because you're showing stuff they're doing and you're pointing out how awesome it is. Number 2, the staff that are there are being trained. You are training them without them really knowing it, but you are training teachers in 10 minutes. I want an answer to how could you use this? How could you get kids to create, build, manipulate? In what way could we use this AI strategy in our whatever, right? And then all of a sudden you're going to have all these ideas that teachers will then share out. And then now staff meetings really are more meaningful. And now you're getting even more ideas. Like, for example, I was at a conference and I know a lot about AI, I know a lot about engagement, and I don't know everything. And all of a sudden this dude who's he's not even a teacher at the thing. We bonded over mixed martial arts. We did some jujitsu, and then he's talking because he works for NASA. And he goes, AI? I'm like, yeah. And he starts telling me about this like website, Sona AI, where you can type in. Literally, I went home and I did it. Catchy rap beat talking about fractions. Enter, and within 30 seconds, it built me a song to hook my kids. And it's funny, Todd. I had both my kids come and listen to it, and later in the day, they're like, I can't get this song out of my head, and I was like, neither can I. But that's what you want as a teacher. And as school leaders, if you can facilitate that in your staff meetings and in your PDs that you're building, what you're doing is you're teaching teachers how to look at things differently. You're teaching teachers how to, and you don't even have to know how yourself. Right. You just have to facilitate the conversation. And then the teachers, just like students, sometimes I'm like, when I did a Ray of Hope, I'm actually wearing the shirt of Ray of Hope, where we created a nonprofit. This is the thing that went nationals on the news. I didn't even know how I wanted to run it, Todd. I said, kids, what should we put on the flyer? What can we do for this? What can we do for that? And then they gave me ideas. And then I was like, that's a great one. That's a great one. Teachers can do the same for school leaders.
Well, what I love that you said the most there that I hope school leaders hear is doing those activities in those meetings, in those gatherings, but having a purpose. I think that's the differentiator here. And I love the letting them talk. Like, that was one of my favorite things as school leader is, I like to lead the training and do an activity with them, but then I want them to go back and say, okay, now make this applicable for your personality, your subject area, your grade level, like work with your people. So I think that's the differentiator, because sometimes, especially in this world of social media, we see people with huge megaphones or things say, icebreakers suck, don't do icebreakers, don't. And it's like, no, there is value in doing those activities with your people if there's a purpose.
Exactly.
I think that's the big difference here. It's not just let's be silly and have fun, because so many people are like, I have other things to do. But it's, let's be silly, have fun, and I can take and use this now. And here's how I can take and use it. So I love that you shared that so much, Jonathan. So as we wrap up, if there's one thing you want school leaders to hear before they end this episode, what is your one thing you want them to make sure they walk away with?
I'm going to say this. Look at everything that you are doing as you kickstart the year, and I want you to take the approach of how can I take things off the shoulders of my teachers? If you want buy-in, this is coming from someone who has been offered 2 superintendent positions, has been offered a dean position, has turned all these things down to continue to work with teachers and kids across the country. I work with leaders across the country, but I look at everything, Todd, through the lens of a classroom teacher. how can you take the toughness of the daily grind off the shoulders of your staff? And in whatever way that is, that's the approach you should take as you kickstart the year. Whether that's the lesson planning stuff, whether that's the paperwork at the beginning of the year, whether that's the staff meetings. And I want you to not only think about what you're going to do, but I want you to address it with your staff. Listen, I don't want to have a staff meeting for this month. And you can even say, I'm going to get in trouble when my superintendent's going to be so mad at me. But I'm going to send the email. And you want to know why I'm doing it? This is why. Just like with teachers, any rule you have or thing you do with students, they need to know the why. If you come into my classroom, kids would stand up for you and say, yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, but they knew why. We didn't just do it because I made you do it. You knew there was a reason. Same with your teachers. Hey, listen, I'm going to do this, and you're going to have a duty-free lunch. You're going to go, you can do whatever. You're going to do this, you can do that. But here's why. It's because I appreciate you. I know you got a lot to do. Here's a PD. Here's why we're doing it. And then I'm going to give you this time to do whatever in your classroom. If whatever you're doing, how can you take the stress of this job off the shoulders of your staff? Because the biggest thing now is you're going to get a buy-in, and you're going to have teachers that aren't expecting you to be perfect. They don't care if you're perfect. They want to see you in the mix with them, doing the work with them, and they'll run through a brick wall and back for someone who they feel like values their work, values their time, and sees them for all the amazingness that they're trying to bring to the students.
I love it. Well, Jonathan, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yes, sir, man. Not at Jonathan Alsheimer, at Mr. Alsheimer on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and my website, jonathanalsheimer.com. Reach out to me, send me a message. I love connecting with good people.
Awesome. And make sure you check out Jonathan's newest book, School of Engagement, available now. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of the TEPSA Talk Podcast. Join us again next week with an all-new guest.